What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cherry Pickers. I'm your host, Gary Altaz. We're back here for week 15 of the NFL season. Can't believe it's actually week 15 already. The season has flown by. There is only 4 more games left for each team, including this week, and then we'll head into the playoffs. We had another great week here on the show, 4-2 against the spread in the last 5 weeks. That puts us at 25 wins, 10 losses, and 2 push against the spread. This is not money line picks. This is not parlays. This is just ATS against the spread picks. And that's what we do here because we have a system where we run numbers and it spits out winners for us on games that qualify. Again, just to recap, what qualifies? Well, you have to have a team with a starting quarterback with at least 4 complete games. That means he started and finished the game. To give us those numbers from those 4 games and on. Because why do we do that? Because the quarterback changes everything with the team. It changes the offense, obviously, and then it changes the defense because if your quarterback is better or worse, it will change how long your defense is on the field, where they're starting, what kind of field position they have. It turns routine kicks into long field goals. Everything is affected and impacted by the quarterback. So we don't have any games that we're giving out today where teams either have less than 4 starts and finishes by their quarterback, or the system says it's too close to call. And what that means is there's less than a point of confidence in either side. So let's get started. How about we do a quick recap of last week? Again, we went 4-2 last week, 25-10 over the last 5 weeks. 4-2 last week, 4-3 the week before. 4-2 the week before that, 7-2 week 11, and 6-1 in week 10 to push us to 25-10. And then we had 2 pushes, and we also went 3-1 in teaser picks. And last week I gave a teaser pick that I said I wasn't going to count because I wasn't too confident on it. And wouldn't you know it, it hit. So if you bet on that one, congratulations. But unfortunately, I can't count that in here, which would push us up to 28-11-2 or 29-11-2 with that one with our teasers. But I'm going to stick to my word. I said I wouldn't count it, and I won't throw it in there. But if you did end up betting on that teaser that included the Panthers, which is why I was afraid to do that, because the Panthers are a bad team. Bad teams are volatile. Even if you give them extra points in a teaser, like we do with our 6-point teasers, it still didn't give me enough comfortability to do so. So let's start with last week. We'll go to our first pick was Minnesota, -6 points, hosting Atlanta. We talked about last week. It was the homecoming for Kirk Cousins, and the system thought that even though the Falcons were getting 6 points, that still did not bump it up enough to warrant taking the Falcons. I've said this all year. I think the Falcons were smoke and mirrors, and that is now proving to be true because they've lost some games here consecutively in their last 4 or 5 games. They've done pretty horrible, but Minnesota was able to cover that 6 points pretty easily and show that they are just the more complete team, just the better team overall, and Kirk Cousins is on some crazy bad run. I don't know if the guy's not playing with a injury. As bad as he's playing, there's got to be something going on with him. He's got to have some kind of injury, or he's just washed. I mean, coming back from, injuries like he had, usually, it takes a full year or 2 years to get back to normal, and he's an older quarterback. So who knows if we saw the best of him. That was a win. The next one was a game that I said I didn't like because we were taking a bad team getting points. The Carolina Panthers at the Philadelphia Eagles. But they were getting 14 points, and I said this last week. The system is always going to like a team that gets 14 points. It was a ridiculous line, and it proved to be ridiculous because, man, the Panthers got some fight in them. Kudos to Bryce Young, that coaching staff, for pushing that team and making them into a competitive team. They're not getting wins, but it's kind of working out perfect for them. They're showing that they're competitive. They're showing that they can play with these good teams, but they're not winning, so they're not getting these meaningless wins that are going to screw up their draft pick and where they fall. They're going to get another high draft pick while showing that they've got players on this team and while this coaching staff can maybe do something with this team. And Bryce Young, man, I clap for that kid. He started out so bad, and now he's just coming into his own. When he got benched for Andy Dalton, I think that was the best thing that happened to him. Something must have clicked, whether it was learning the offense, whether the coaching staff finally was getting him where he needed to be. I don't know, but kudos to them. They cashed easy for us. They got 14 points. I believe they only lost by 4 or 6. The next game was Seattle getting 3 points in Arizona in that NFC West showdown where Seattle and Arizona were trying to battle out for that first place. Seattle came back, won outright, won pretty convincingly. I think they won by 12 or 30 to 18 final. I liked the Cardinals heading into the season. They were not an easy out for anybody last year. I think that coaching staff did an amazing job with that rotation of quarterbacks that they had last year, where they were tough every week. They're still tough, but they've still got major holes. And Seattle's head coach is a real defensive specialist. The NFL is copying his defense. He knows how to play against running quarterbacks. He knows how to scheme against each team and to try to take out their best weapon. Seattle just seems to be getting better. For them to be getting 3 points like that, I thought that was a bit much, but it was a division matchup. So we were able to cash that one, Seattle +3. They not only covered, they won outright. The next game here, I don't know what happened here. I said that this was a scary spot to take this team. It was taking Buffalo -3.5 at the Rams. It was an interconference battle. They were headed to an NFC foe on the other side of the country. That is never a good thing for a favorite. They're also playing a team that's trying to win their division. The Rams are still in the NFC West race, and the Rams have a great coaching staff. They've got a great head coach. The guy still calling him a young coach, but he's still not even 40 years old yet, and he's been coaching there for, I think, 7 or 8 seasons. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He won 1. You can't head in an AFC team heading to an NFC team across the country, coming in as big favorites. I mean, no better way to rally the troops than a situation like that. And Sean McVay was able to do that. And the Rams came through big. They scored a bunch of points. Buffalo tried a valiant comeback, was not able to get it done. And they really shot themselves in the foot in that AFC race. And they got a big game today that we'll talk about here in a little bit with the best team in the NFL, the consensus best team in the NFL coming up. So that will be an interesting one. But Buffalo did not cover. Not only that, they lost the game. So we took an L there. The next game, one that was my favorite team and one that I didn't know how I felt about it coming in, because Chicago plays tough most of the time. But I don't know what happened, if this was just a coaching mismatch or what, but San Francisco throttled Chicago. The system liked Chicago getting 3.5, but it was not even close. San Francisco moved the ball up and down the field. I think the halftime total yards were 49ers had over 300 and the Bears had 2 or 4, something crazy like that. Chicago just didn't look like they came to play, and whatever they had schemed up on defense, Kyle Shanahan just went to town on it. That was another L for us. And the last game of the weekend was the Chargers getting 4 at Kansas City. I said this was a divisional showdown. I said this game should be close. And I said, hey, if the Chiefs come through and kick a field goal to win the game at the end, we'll take it. You know, if it was tied and they needed that to win, well, actually they were down 1 and they kicked it to win by 2. It couldn't have worked out better, almost flawlessly for us. The Chargers kept it close. They're great. They're a great team against their division, and they're a well-coached team that gets the most out of what they have. They're probably going to the playoffs, but they don't have the firepower on offense to really threaten for a Super Bowl. But playing against anybody, especially in their division, they can win. And they were able to just get close, which every team that plays Kansas City seems to do. I talked about this last week. I think the Chiefs scheme on how to beat you, not how to run up the score, not how to do what they do best, not how to, we throw, these routes best. Let's just hammer these. No, they don't do that. They just calmly and collectively every week put themselves in a position to win. I can remember a quote from Tiger Woods back in the past. Somebody asked him, what is his philosophy? I just put myself in the next best possible position at every stroke, in the next best possible position. I think that's exactly how the Chiefs play. We're going to be in a position to win week in and week out. And as long as we put ourselves in a position to win, we don't care how we get there. We'll expose or attack something that you're not good at, and we'll try to take away these things to try to lead us to be in a position at the end of the game to win. I mean, as a Chiefs fan, you're probably having heart attacks every week. And if you're a Chiefs hater, you're punching holes in your wall because this literally could have been like their 6th or 7th loss of the season if things had bounced the other way for like one more play. But hey, they got the job done. We got the job done. We went 4-2. We were in the money again. We're on a great run. So let's get to this week's picks. Before we get there, just remember 1-800-GAMBLER is there. You can call 1-800-GAMBLER for information or resources if you feel like you have a problem. All right. Why don't we start with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who head to Philadelphia to play the Eagles in this state championship game, as it is called on the local radio stations. Philly, a really good team, having a really good season, but they're not doing it flashy. They're kind of just running the ball well. They're beating some bad teams. They are just playing fundamental football. Nick Sirianni still getting it done there, even though it seems like he kind of lost himself a little bit in the middle of the season. There's even some controversy with the quarterback and the number one receiver. Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown seem to be butting heads for whatever reason. And you'll see A.J. Brown's stats are not that great this year. Neither are Hurts. He's not playing that great through the air, but he's still running the ball well. And they're still doing what they need to do to win. They are, I believe, the number 2 seed in the NFC right now. They're still a game behind Detroit. Detroit just keeps finding ways to win. They're just good. Detroit's just good everywhere. Philly's good everywhere as well. They don't have many holes on this team, but I do believe they have a ceiling. Pittsburgh coming in after whooping up on the Browns last week. It was too close to call for us to pick last week on the show, but I talked about how that was a home game for Cleveland. It was snowing out. Away games. Tomlin as an away favorite in the division. He's not a great. This was a totally different scenario. Pittsburgh took care of business. They were just a better team, and they showed that on Sunday last week. Now they come into Philly against this Eagles team that is, it's a team that likes to control the clock. It's a team that will go for it on 4th and short. It's a team that is going to try to grind out wins if they have to. They only have 2 losses on the season. They lost to the Falcons early in the season when Saquon dropped a pass where I think it was a Monday night game, and the pass hit him right in the hands, and he turned his head before he had actually caught the ball. He dropped it. It led to Atlanta coming back, getting a close one of those close wins at the beginning of the season that were kind of, a Falcons facade where, they probably should have lost, and their record looked better than it was, than the team actually was. And then they lost, I believe, the next week to Tampa. Tampa's got some great wins on the season. They beat Detroit. They beat Philly. They beat the number 1, number 2 team in the conference. But after that game, Philly's just been playing great. They've been getting it done every week. I'm interested to see how this Steelers offensive line handles this front 7 from Philly. This front 7 from Philly is tough. They've got really good players up there. They can bring the pressure. Wilson, he's going to have to buy time. He's going to have to look downfield to Pickens. They're going to have to do their job in their connection, because if they can get a bunch of pressure on Wilson and get a few sacks where he's running around in the backfield for these big losses and taking them out of even field goal range, it could spell trouble. The running game has been doing well for Pittsburgh. Obviously, the Pickens connection is doing well, and Wilson's building some rapport with these other guys. Be interesting to see. Philly did have a really good secondary to start the year. I think that's kind of fell off a little bit as they've had some injuries. Pittsburgh's defense is Pittsburgh's defense. TJ Watt, those guys are still doing their job well, but Philly's got a really good offensive line too. So really, Pittsburgh's got a little bit of holes on the offensive line. Their line's not as good as it was earlier in the season with some injuries. That Philly front 7, that Philly front, especially there on the defensive line, it could be tough for Pittsburgh to get the offense rolling. And then on the other side of the ball, if that offensive line for Philly can neutralize Pittsburgh, that will be tough. But the system says Pittsburgh's the pick here. The numbers say Pittsburgh should not be getting 5.5 points. That's a lot of points. This should probably be more like a field goal game, and that's what the system has it at, just over a field goal difference, less than a 4-point difference between these teams. It shows Philly at a neutral field at a 3.4 points better. They are getting 5.5. So we're going with Pittsburgh. The Steelers lock it in, plus 5.5 at Philly. That's the first pick. The next pick here, we're going to go to Miami, or excuse me, to Houston as the Texans take on the Dolphins. The Texans are a 2.5-point favorite, and the system says to take Miami. I would proceed with caution here as Miami is down to like an emergency right tackle. They've got two linemen out today, and I believe at least one of those guys was a backup to begin with. So they're on a third string tackle, I believe, and they're missing another offensive lineman. Houston's defense isn't anything. They're decent. They're nothing great. Their offensive line has played putrid this year. But Miami on the road is not a trustworthy team. Miami is kind of Jekyll and Hyde. They can move the ball on offense. I don't know what their chances are at the playoffs. Probably not great. Probably slim to none. Houston still fighting for a playoff. It's a 2.5-point line. The system likes Miami here. I don't know if I care for this line at all. It's not really my favorite pick, but we're going to go with it. Miami getting 2.5 at Houston. I think you got a couple of average teams here, and it might just come down to who wants it more. The next game here, we're headed to Cleveland for the Browns as they host the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs coming off that close win over a division foe, head to Cleveland. Cleveland is not going to be an easy out for teams at the end of the year here. They still got a good defense. They still pressure the passer well. Winston, he can sling the ball. If he's not throwing pick sixes, if he's not throwing interceptions, the offense can move, but this Kansas City team still finds ways to win, and this is a 4.5-point favorite. It actually, believe it or not, likes Kansas City minus 4.5. It hasn't many times this season. Kansas City has not covered against the spread very much at all this year, and usually the system likes to pick against Kansas City. I'm surprised it likes the Chiefs here at minus 4.5. You would think at some point Kansas City is going to blow someone out. Could this be the week for it? I don't know. This Cleveland team is scrappy, but they also take games off. Tough call here. Going with the system, Kansas City minus 4.5. I did read just before the show, I was doing some research. Hollywood Brown might be back for this game, so there might be another offensive weapon there for the Chiefs. For Cleveland, David Njoku is out. He didn't practice all week. They kept listing him as questionable. But if you don't take a rep in practice, unless you're an absolute elite player and you're just resting, you're not going to play. And it doesn't look like he was just resting. It looks like he was just hurt. So Cleveland could be without, arguably one of their best offensive weapons. And Kansas City could have another one, which they need, if you ask me. They need another offensive guy to go to. But we're going with the system here, Kansas City minus 4.5 at Cleveland. Lock it in. The next game here, man, what a big game. Going to Detroit as the Lions host the Buffalo Bills. Detroit is a 2-point favorite here. What could be, and what a lot of people are saying, is the Super Bowl preview, or could be the Super Bowl preview. Hey, it might be. This is the number 1 and number 2 ranked teams according to the system. The system has the Lions as 4.5 points better than Buffalo. The line is only 2, so you know what that means. We are taking Detroit minus 2 at home versus the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo might have been caught looking ahead last week, heading to LA to play the Rams. They come off playing the 49ers and the Chiefs, I believe, and they were sandwiched in between those two games and then playing the Lions. Maybe they look past the Rams. Who knows? But this week, I can guarantee you they're not looking past the Lions. This is going to be a fun game to watch. Now, the one thing here, the caveat here that could be detrimental to the Lions is they have a lot of injuries on defense, but those guys seem to be starting to get healthy and coming back. I don't know exactly how many of these guys they got coming back, but that's something to monitor maybe at the beginning of the game, or if you're looking to bet on this game, go look, see how many of those starters are coming back. We're just going by the numbers here. When we take these against the spread bets, these ATS bets, we go by what the numbers tell us. The numbers tell us that Detroit is a 4.5-point better team, and they're only giving 2 points away. So we're taking Detroit minus 2. That offensive line in Detroit controls just about everything in that game. in these Detroit games. They run the ball, they control the clock, they go for it on fourth down at an absolutely stupid rate, an absolutely ridiculously dumb, stupid. Don't try this at home. Why are you going for it at your own 20-yard line on 4th and 3 or 4? They don't care. Their head coach doesn't care. He believes in that offensive line. They do with the job that needs done. They continue to grind out first downs. And after a while, a defense is just tired of being on the field. They're tired of being beat up. They're tired of being pushed around. And there are playmakers on that offense for Detroit. As long as they're not turning the ball over or giving up special teams or defensive touchdowns, they're going to be hard to beat for anybody. That's just plain facts. Now, Buffalo's the kind of team that could do it. They've got the offensive firepower. They've got an absolute crazy person playing quarterback who will fling it 70 yards down the field or take off running. He's not afraid to get hit. This is going to be a blast. It's going to be a fun game. I am looking forward to this one, but we're going with Detroit -2. Lock it in. Lions, the favorite, and we're taking them. Next game, we're heading to Denver. I do not like this pick at all. We've talked about Denver at home. Denver, 4.5-point favorites against the Indianapolis Colts. System likes the Colts getting 4.5. Not by much. Just barely became a play. Just barely over a point of confidence here. Indy, they can play decent. They can play with anybody. Denver plays well at home. You got a really great coach for the Broncos. You got an up-and-comer here for Indy who seems to be – he does pretty well. It's left to be seen if he's going to have to move on from his quarterback. They do run the ball well. They do have a good offensive line, but Denver does as well, and Denver's offensive line is even better, if you ask me. Their quarterback's better. Bo Nix is better. Their head coach is better. So I don't know. I could see this being a 7 to 10 point win for Denver, or even more if Anthony Richardson's not playing well and he's completing under 50% of his passes and throwing interceptions. This could be a replay of that Falcons game at Denver, which I didn't like that pick either, but we're going to stick with the numbers in the system. They like the Colts getting 4.5. We're going to go with it as well. All right, a couple more games to go here. Tampa Bay is headed to the LA Chargers. It is the Buccaneers at LA. The Chargers are 3-point favorites, and the system says that the Chargers are not the team to take care of. They like Tampa getting 3 points, and actually the system says that Tampa is about a half a point better on a neutral field than the Chargers. But I was reading some stuff before the game. It looks like the Chargers do have a matchup advantage here today, as the Buccaneers, I believe, are the second most frequent team to go zone, the second most in the NFL, and the Chargers feast on zone defenses. So that offense in LA is not that great, but if they're ever going to have a game where a matchup favors them, I guess this is it. I mean, Tampa is known for going zone. Their head coach, that's just the way he does things. It's just the way he runs his team. We know with Tampa, they've got Baker who will sling the ball. They're starting to get their running game going. They've got really good playmakers on that team. On both sides of the ball, they've got some really great talent. They've got some great wins. They have suffered some injuries, but they seem to be getting a little bit more healthy now. Ladd McConkey, the rookie receiver for the Chargers, was questionable today, but I just read that it looks like he's probably going to go. That's huge news for the Chargers. They've got to have him to have any semblance of a passing game, because the rest of the guys on that team they have a decent tight end. Their other receivers, they just drop the ball at an alarming rate. Harbaugh went with the offensive line with his first pick overall, first pick in the draft in his first year overall with the Chargers. Everybody criticized him, saying that they needed an offensive weapon. He wins games through the offensive line. It's tough to blame him. The kid that they drafted from Notre Dame is playing great. I think his philosophy is, we'll get a receiver later. I'm not passing up this blue chipper here on the offensive line. Blue chip offensive linemen are harder to get than high-level receivers, if you ask me. I think they'll be fine as far as the offense goes. He wants to build from the offensive line out on his offense. But we'll see. Tampa, their Achilles here is Baker grew up liking Brett Favre, and now he thinks he's Brett Favre, and he plays like Brett Favre, where he'll throw any pass he thinks he can make any throw. Now he's accurate, just on an accuracy basis, one of the best in the NFL by far. Baker, when he's not getting pressure and his guys open, watch the pass. It is pinpoint accurate. The problem is, even when his guy's not open, he'll throw that ball. So he can have a 3-pick game, and if he does that, he's probably not winning the game. But their defensive line is still tough. That's kind of a positive for the Chargers, because their offensive line can probably handle this defensive front. But we'll see what happens. I think this is going to be a close game. Tampa getting 3. I like that. I wish it was 4. I'd feel a lot better if it was 4. But we're going to stick with what the system says and take Tampa +3. 2 more games to go here. Cardinals are hosting the Patriots. We got to take this stinking Patriots team again. The Patriots find ways to lose. I don't know how much longer that coach is going to be there. I guess the front office is not happy in New England. This is the heir to Bill Belichick and a 2-decade run that the NFL has never seen. So expectations were going to be high. I do think that they fight, and I do think that they play close most of the time, and they made the switch to the rookie quarterback at the right time. I think he's playing well. He's got some real potential with his legs and his arm. I think he looks pretty good. I think that they've got a quarterback, at least from what he's shown so far. But they still are not good. Their offensive line is the worst offensive line in the NFL, or at least it was earlier in the season. They don't have many playmakers on offense. Really, it's Drake May running around, making plays with his legs and just trying to find guys that are open. And that game that they lost to the Colts last week or the week before, they should have won by 14 to 17 points, and they lost because of just the dumbest things ever, turning the ball over inside the 5-yard line, getting touchdowns called back because of stupid penalties on the offensive line, just one dumb thing after another. They can't play like that. Arizona is desperate right now. They're still in the NFC West race. They've got a couple losses in a row to Minnesota and to Seattle. This is an interconference game. The away team is the worst team. The away team has less to play for. The away team is younger. The away team has more holes. Arizona's last couple games have kind of drew their numbers back, but New England's getting 6.5. That's a lot of points. The system likes New England getting 6.5. You can get that 6.5 at Caesars or FanDuel. Most of the books are at 6.5 at Caesars or FanDuel. All right, so we're going to take New England. Don't feel good about it. Hate taking teams like this, but it is what it is. Last game here, we're heading to Minnesota as the Vikings host the Bears. This is a division game. I hate taking a division home favorite, especially given 7 points, but the system thinks Minnesota is 10 points better than Chicago. So even when the Bears are getting a touchdown, the system still likes Minnesota. This could be a bad week, guys. I mean, we've been on a crazy good run. This could be an ugly week. I don't feel great about most of these picks, but we're going to stick with the system. It's been proving us right. If it has a bad week, it has a bad week. We still got 3 more regular season weeks to go, plus the playoffs. Minnesota -7. Obviously, they're the better team, but this Chicago team should have beat Minnesota the last time they played them. They should have beat Green Bay the last time they played them. They play people close. Last week, I don't know what happened. I think it was just, we don't have any reason to really fight hard for this game. We're out of the playoffs. We are out of the division. We're across the country in San Francisco. This is going to be a different atmosphere. They're going to want to spoil things here for Minnesota. But the system thinks that they can win by more than a touchdown. That's a lot of points. I don't feel great about it. Sam Darnold, what a season for him. I still don't believe in him long term. I still don't think this is the guy you're going to get every season. I think this is a unique situation with a good offensive line, the best receiver in the NFL, a great head coach who is very quarterback friendly, a great defense, a home field advantage, probably one of the best home field advantages in the NFL. And he's benefited from some dropped interceptions. I think this is peak Sam Darnold. Whoever signs him next year, you're not going to get this unless you give him the same environment that he has now. That's my thoughts. And I still think old Sam Darnold that sees ghosts like he did in New York with the Jets, where they caught him on camera saying, seeing ghosts. He's just throwing the ball. I don't know. He threw 5 picks that game, something crazy. But hey, the guy is playing great this year. He's like on pace for over 4,000 yards and like 30 touchdowns. I think he's at 23 touchdowns and like 10 interceptions, something like that, 3,800 yards, somewhere in that vicinity. Chicago, I mean, they've got talent on the team. Williams is he's a true talent. His arm is talented. Every game, once or twice, you'll see a oh my god throw, like, and they're not these 70-yard passes. They're these awkward throws where he's kind of falling one direction and he's maybe throwing almost sidearm down the sidelines. He's had some really gorgeous throws this year. They've got playmakers on offense. Their defense is scrappy, but they just, they have 4 bounces go their way. They've got 4 more wins and 4 less losses. And this is a totally different game with the same 2 teams. But in the world of sports, unfortunately, it's your record that anybody cares about, even the players. It's not how close you are. It's how many wins versus how many losses that you have. We're going to take Minnesota -7 here. I don't like it. I could very easily see Chicago covering. But Minnesota is still trying to keep up with Detroit. And, hey, Detroit's got a tough game. This could be the game where they catch up. Remember, they're only 2 losses for Minnesota and the same for the Eagles. They are fighting. This number 1 seed could come down to week 18. Who knows? We'll see what happens. We're going to lock it up with Minnesota there. So I don't have a teaser this week. I don't see anything that jumps out to me that I like at all. These are all iffy picks. No teaser this week. So hopefully you took my cautioned advice last week and cashed on that one, but I don't even have a cautioned one to give you this week. So that will do it for this episode here in week 15. I can't believe we've done 15 of these. I appreciate everybody watching. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you are betting wisely, not betting with more money than you can afford to lose, and you're just having fun with this. It can be fun. It can make you a little bit of money, but it's not worth getting yourself into trouble with, and neither are these picks here. I am just a guy that created some number system that spit out winners and refined it, and it started working. So I thought I would share it with people. I just have fun with it. I bet very low amounts, very, very embarrassingly low sometime amounts, because I don't want the stress. I just like the fun of this. I hope you guys do too. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back next week. Let's hope for another good week. We're on a 5 straight weeks, 5 straight winning weeks, I believe. And we have 1, 2. So really out of the 10, we've got 8 that are 500 or better, and 7 that are winning of these system picks. So let's hope for another one. But if not, we might be due for a losing week because we haven't had one in a while. Anyway, I'm done yapping. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have fun today. I'll see you next time.